welcome. Continuing my definitions on Grasshopper, and I thought I'd mix it up a little bit and have some fun. I know I was running through the params, and I had gotten to the domain and domain 2, and I think was moving down the list to matrices and GUID containers. But I thought, let's go back to the domain and show how I can apply it to a script that I just, thought up in the night. I thought that would be kind of cool to do. I just grabbed a mesh of a skeleton online, and that was pretty simple. And in doing so, they give you all the beautiful meshes. There's no reason to model anything this intricate. It's all over online. Everything's being scanned from the Smithsonian. There's so many free sites, whether you have to drop a couple of bucks on a model or not. But I thought it'd be interesting to go into here and think about this geometry as I can grab it. And I was looking at long pieces saying, okay, well, I can grab the bones, the legs. I thought, well, what if I started to hybrid this human with this strange parametric model? So what I did was I went in and I said, okay, well, I can grab a mesh, and even though I can make this more efficient, I thought, well, let's do it separately so I can think about this. And I don't even know if my model is centered on the XYZ, but it would at 0, but it would probably be good to center that on the world plane. It might make for easy mirroring and keeping things symmetrical. When I build things, I take things apart. I never used to think this way, but now I really do. And I do it in parts. So what I did was I took this one bone that was here, and I think what I've done, just for convenience sake, is as I'm processing things and going through here, I'm building layers. So the legs are here if I want to show them, and they're actually still the original legs that are on there. They're locked, so I can't get at them, but if I wanted to get at them, I could. But I'm going to lock them and turn them off. And in there, I buried the knees and I buried the base because I don't need it. So layers are very important if you don't want to lose your model, and you certainly don't want to get lost in all of this little tiny stuff in the sense of here of swapping out that which is seen to that which isn't seen. It's best to work on layers, and I would encourage good practice in that. Even though I'm not too bad in that, I still need to improve my directories and organizing on the computer. So what I did was I grabbed points off of all those vertices out of that one bone, not out of all the bones, just out of that one bone. And I thought, well, let's sort the list. Let's take the keys and the values. There might be a different way of doing this. And I flattened all of the values so I could come up with a list item to grab the first and last item. -1 is a good way to grab the last item. So I just set up a panel to do so. And I could have done this in, once I see repetitive things like this, I know I could organize it better and make it more efficient. But this makes sense to me, and I don't mind looking at it. It doesn't bother me. It's not a big, ugly can of worms. I mean, it's a bigger script than normal, but maybe I can pack all this in here and here. But the problem is then they all become accountable to the same. Definitely, I should be able to find ways to condense this, but right now I'm okay with it. I'm going to find the list items. I'm going to dispatch them to the highest and lowest points, which is like flying the floor and ceiling. And actually, I began with that in numbers, dealing in the function tool and going in here, grabbing the function tool and typing in floor and ceiling of value X. And I was like, okay, well, it's Grasshopper, it's node-based. It doesn't have to be scripted or mathematical like that so much. So I find the top point, I find the bottom point, I draw a line between it, and that's it. And then I take that line and I do a very cool tool that I learned off of the Surface Morph or Boxmark tutorial of OM. So they basically take a variable pipe and put in a range and a sine curve to control that variable pipe. Pretty cool. So if you start playing with this, you start to really have an effect on those wobbly legs and knees. And even though I didn't put all the curves in, I did choose to put this one in of the legs and have some fun with it. You can change up your curves whatever you want. I think I've capped them, and I set the UV count small. I set the radii small enough that then I could just put a sphere at the end of those points and play with the number count on those. And I can change out whatever I want to have. And those are kind of the same. So kind of changing the new knees of this structure, which is why I got rid of the old ones. So in doing that, I'd only had one set done and one variable pipe done if I was to look at it, along with this bottom one, which I ran into a second script. I just took a line between, this is getting a little lost, between those 2 points. I took a line between this line and this line. So like I said, think in lines and points, and then surfaces. So that line then followed the same suit uh, of this object, and then the spheres cover the knees. So that's pretty simple. I'm just gonna go onto this because that always frustrates me. So these two items are there, and they kind of go through, and you'll see there's two balls at the end of here because there's obviously two bones coming down from your knee to your foot. And I'm not in the medical profession; I don't name everything. And I did a quick mirror over to the other leg, which works pretty well off the center, and that's where I have to make sure I've centered my object. Otherwise, we get a little asymmetrical value. But keep in mind what I said: making things asymmetrical is actually more difficult than symmetrical objects, and it makes for a very interesting thing. So what I did was also went in and I found, I figured, well, I'll grab this mesh at this bone, and I'll grab this bone, and they're pretty similar off the left leg. I figured, well, there's the two, and it's hard to see them, but there they are. And with those two, I can put them through the same script. The only things I would alter in it as I go through, and this is where I think as you pull out different data, I was having trouble just bringing them all in, selecting them all as a mesh, and then grafting them and thinking it would feed into this. There's something with the mesh in my script that reads all the information as one. But what's nice here is we can go in and we can grab that variable pipe, and we have a completely other tool to do this. And they're inventing more and more graph types, which are just wonderful. I'm going to do the Bezier curve and just take that and do something. That's not too exciting to me. Thickening it. What happens when I stealth that? Yeah, you're not really getting the power of the sine. And the other tool I've seen, the sine summation, has really made some nice work. I'm trying to think of how you use those box frames to really overlap one another and have some gorgeous, flexible, rippling effects. So if you're thinking mechanical or machine or organic, you can have some pretty cool stuff. So there's the knees, and they go filing into those spheres, these upper legs, all come into one. I group them as one. I then mirror them, and then I take them both as a group. And that's it. And then my whole script, which is here, which is very simple for me to figure out. My little L is getting up now, so I best start to be quiet. Yeah, it's a pretty simple script that you can grab. You can keep your original bones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into detail and actually use shift and select these guys and do something totally different that's maybe not the highest Z, the highest X, the highest Y. I'll try and group these because I don't want to be writing a script for every single bone, but I am going to do the similar thing with the arms right now, which could be fun. So just have fun with this. Write your script so you understand it and you can follow it. And what I think is, because they're my scripts and they're going to be on GitHub and I have tutorials, this is about yeah, and basically, if you think about it, all I wanted to do was show the domain node, and there it is, a little domain node working, and then the range node. And I'm not sure, the range points over here, and then it points back here. So actually, that's kind of strange that it does that. That range tool is going over here to this range, and why is this range pointing down to, oh, more ranges because I cut and paste them. So I guess they just ricochet. So there's something I figured out: as you cut and paste, these jumps start to register with one another. So I didn't know that with copy. But keep learning what you're doing. Have fun with it. It's not too hard to figure out. I've got some interesting legs that don't bear up with the hips, but that's going to allow for some creative thinking of elongating this and stretching this so that actually comes in contact with that. And next thing you know, you start creating something that you didn't plan from sketch, but this will end up becoming somewhat of a face, and who knows, it could end up becoming a whole head that comes back to the hips. You're not sure what you're going to create if you go at it this way. Break it into parts. Imagine new things. It's not too different from the other scripts I've written. I'm just applying it to something much more complex. And I actually really like the cool modes that you can put this in. And quite honestly, I doubt very much I would ever do a pen drawing like this and start to imagine this on there. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. I find it pretty exciting, and I haven't even taken this to render. I'm much more interested when I'm examining this to get into things like the points and lines, and start to dissect this and write script and have control over it and put some trigonometry into it. So I hope that's interesting. I hope people kind of follow what I'm doing a little bit. Like I said, it's the direction I want to go with my work. And who knows? I think it would be fun to grab Leonardo's famous image and bring the robotics in. I've done that at times. The arms, you can activate those. You can bring it into AR Spark, I have so many creative ideas that I want to do, and I'm doing this alone still. I think it is a matter of pairing up, finding other communities, finding people tied to jewelry, finding people tied to robotics, people that are, extremely serious-minded in their work in the sense of satisfying clients, and then always have someone that, I do have some free time in my hands. Well, 3 kids, but the summer. And I'm using this to prepare for teaching online other students, because if I can come up with these simple creative ideas, I can only imagine what students full-time studying in their undergrad or graduate work could come up with. All right, thanks for watching.